Hello people, welcome back to my channel. This is my third video of website security series. In this video, I will show you the rest of the settings of iTheme security plugin so you can protect your website even better. My name is Mazhar, and at RightSOlutions, I create tutorials for all you DIY people. If you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon to get the notification for my next video. Now, without any further ado, let's head to the iTheme security plugin settings and continue with the tutorial. So the next setting is the file change detection. You can enable it. And if you look at the configuration settings here, it will allow you to monitor all these files which you have on your server. So you don't want any unauthorized user to do any changes into these folders and these files here. And if you think that anything in these folders or in these files, you just want to exclude it, so you can just simply, let's say, if you say web admin, so you just simply say that it will not monitor the login page. But it's no point if you exempt the login. So it's just an example that you can exclude and include. You can just go back and send them back again. If you just delete it, it will go back there. So the next one here, the type of files that you don't want to be monitored if there are any changes happening. So these are mostly the logs. I mean, these are generally the files which constantly keep on changing. So there are general extensions you can add and you can remove whatever you want. So after selecting all your parameters, you can just say save settings and go back again, close this and go back again. Okay, I'll disable this one because I still have to work on some settings. The next setting is about the file permissions. If you just click on it here, and you'll just see that there are some permissions given. Just click here to just refresh it. It will just reload all the permissions here. So if you can just look at here, in this column here, it says its suggested permissions are here. The value which is already assigned here, it is, if you can just see that it's given mostly all the read and write executable permissions, but it has been suggested different permissions here to just not to authorize most of the use here. So even here, if you can just see that it's given onto the WP-Config.Php, and this is most probably my Nginx configuration file. It could be functions file too. So it's given read and write, but suggested is given only read. So you can just change the permissions if you want. So it's just given you the suggested value what you have to change. The file permissions are right now authorized. So the next one is here, the local brute force protection. So if you just look here onto the configuration settings, you will just see that all these global settings are already here. Normally, you don't need to change anything. You could, if you want, you can just change it. How many number of attempts you want some host to try on your website. 5 attempts, you can just reduce it. Increasing is not advisable. Maximum login attempts per user. Users sometimes forget their username or maybe password, so they just keep on attempting. So if you reduce it, possibly some legitimate user will be locked out. But still, you can change these settings. You can play out with these settings here. So automatically ban admin user. If somebody other than, like, mind you, if you had kept your ID, your IP address and your admin ID into whitelist, then it's not a problem. But after selecting this, if anybody tried to log into your website, swooping in using admin name, and it does not have the right password, it will lock them out. So just be careful. Sometimes it will even ban the legitimate user as well. So after changing these settings, again, save settings and go back again. But remember that this local brute force protection is the protection which is actually locking out and keeping the record of all these IP addresses and users who are only on your website. So the next option or the settings are here, the network brute force protection. So if you go through the settings here, you will just see that it has issued you the API key to differentiate your website into the network, and just see that if somebody is trying to access your website and has been locked out, that IP address is going to be shared onto the network, onto the IP security network. So it will further block this person to go and attack some other websites, even the user as well. So after going through, if you just want to reset the API key, just click on it. It will authorize you with a different key again. So normally it's already applied because we had done this right from the beginning. So just save settings and close this menu again. So the next setting here is password requirements. If you just click on to the configuration settings here, there's a strong password requirement, and there's a WordPress a password meter which actually monitors if the passwords are strong or not. So enabling a strong password is mostly recommended. It is the first protection on your website. So enable it. Generally, it's enabled very first time when you had installed these plugins. So by default, it automatically forces users to use the stronger password. But you can disable it too, but not recommended. But what you can do, if you just still feel that out of these user groups here, if you just see one of the group which you don't want to be forced with a stronger password, possibly, let's say, if you have a subscriber user and you just don't want them to have a stronger password because they generally cannot contribute much into your website. So you can just say that, okay, let their password be even of their choice, so it will not be forcing them. So if you just select them, so it will just leave the rest of the groups with the stronger password enforcement. So your choice. I don't suggest to leave any user out of your website with a weaker password. So whatever you prefer, after changing it, save settings and then close and go back again to our main setup menu here. The next option here in our setting is here the SSL certificates. I had talked about SSL certificates several times previously. If your server had authorized and issued you the server certificates, so you can just enable it, and it will redirect all the requests, send it to HTTP towards HTTPS. So the next one is the system tweak. So this system tweak actually provides you further step to protect your website here. So if you just look into the options given here, so system file. So if you just select this option, it will protect your system file. It will prevent anybody else who's trying to access these files other than the logged in and the authorized users. So then you can prevent directory browsing. So then the next option is the request method, filter request methods. So you should not allow them. And the suspicious query, like if you see that somebody is specifically trying to send some a script to look into your pages, or maybe trying to find some specific place on your website or on your web page, so you should also block them too. Non-English characters, let's say the visitors comes from all over the world and they speak different language and they write different language, like let's say English, French, use foreign characters, it part of their language, and maybe some of our characters will be foreign to them. So you can choose to filter it. I don't suggest. Next one is the long URL strings, limit it up, so you can just select this too. So file writing permissions, these are the permissions what we had actually previously seen it. So remove file writing permissions. I would suggest that you select this one too. So PHP in uploads, you should disable PHP in upload folders. PHP in plugins, you can disable these directories also vulnerable. And then the PHP in themes, you can do this. But remember that there are some plugins, they do possibly need access to your some directories too. So if you feel that some plugins are behaving odd, you can just come and change these settings again. So after selecting all your choice, you can just say save settings. I'm not doing it because I'm still working on it. The next one in the setting is the WordPress Salts. So if you just click here, this one, so you can just see that it allows you to change your WordPress salts, and instead of having regular passwords and the human readable characters, it will change your password into some longer key. It's an add-on security. So after selecting your choice, save changes, and go back to the menu here, and then the WordPress tweaks even enhance further security of your websites, but be very careful. Sometimes it will even cause unstable function on your website. There are a few things which you can just look into these, like Windows Live write header. Normally, if you don't have the live writer, you don't need it. So just you can just select it, and then edit URI headers. You can just exempt it as well. Command spam, it will reduce your spamming in commands. So you can just select this one. So file editor is already enabled by default, what we had actually previously selected in the beginning. And then the XML, so if you disable it, your Jetpack will not actually function properly in some mobile apps. Also using this, so just you can change it, but leave it enabled. Here, this one, the multiple authentication attempts, but it is a recommended feature that you should block all these multiple username and passwords attempts. Some bots or maybe some scripts are running possibly hundreds of username attempting to get access. So keep it locked. So the next option is restricted API access. This is one of the service which actually provide developers as a tool to utilize API keys to exchange data on each other's website. Would suggest to go onto the restricted access. It will allow only users who are logged in to add any data onto your website. So the next one is login error message. So you can just disable the error message if you want. And then forge unique nicknames. Well, this is also one of the option that you could enforce on your website. Disable extra user archive. You better select this one. It will actually archive all these users who are not actually posting. So less vulnerability to sneak through all these users who are not active on your website. So the next one is protect against tab mapping. Yeah, you should select this one. I mean, this is like, if somebody is trying to reach to the system file somehow using some scripts. And the next option is login with email address or username. By default, it allows you two options, that you can just let somebody log in only with the username or only with the username. You can just leave them as an option that if they have a username and they have an email, so they can just use either of this or maybe both together. So these are the most settings. And then the last option here is the mitigate attachment file traversal attack. I think this is by default recommended that you should not disable it. So it reduces the vulnerability of getting sneaked into your website. So after doing all these settings, just go back again to save changes and close this menu to go back to our settings here. So this is actually pretty much with all the recommended settings walkthrough and overview. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and now look into the advanced settings of this security plugin. So if you just click on the advanced here, so you will just see these 7 different settings which had been kept in the advanced tag. So if you just look at the first one, is the admin users. So this setting will actually allow you to change the attributes of admin user, so make your site less vulnerable. And with this second option here, changing your ID 1, so the admin of your site is assigned by default ID 1. Your choice, you can do it, but remember before you apply it, because once you apply it, it will log you out, and then you have to log in with the name you just created. So I'm not doing it. If you did it, you just save setting. Next one is the change content directory. Okay, in this settings here, that your contents are kept into the WP content directory. There are few pros and cons of changing this directory name. One, if for some reason that you have to uninstall the iTheme security, it will not revert the name back to the default WP content. It's not easy to keep track of these manually if you have to go through this. Remember to take a backup of your website before you apply this and test it. So if you did replace the name, you can just put it here and save settings. It will change the directory. Going through this, close it again, and now go to the next one. Change the database table prefix. You know that normally WordPress database by default, when you create your website, it have a prefix of WP, which is well known. Everybody knows about it. So you can just change it if you want. So you can just say yes. It will, and if you say save changes, it had moved me out from the settings, and it's just given me the new name. Now hide backend. So this setting, normally if you go to a configuration page here, you can just see that it will generally hide all these important pages which allow you to log in, like WP login, PHP, then WP admin and admin login. So if you just hide them, simply say hide the backend, click it. It will just give you all these options here. You can just change the slug here, your choice, possibly put your name here if you want. I mean, I don't suggest to put your name. Maybe put your street name. After changing, if you want it, you can just redirect to users who are trying to go to this page. So you can just put any slug here. I mean, it will just redirect them to this place or this page here. And the next option is the custom login. You know that there are some plugins which use logins, like let's say WooCommerce. If you're using WooCommerce, so if you log out, so it just takes some action. So if there's some actions which are customized, you can just attach them here. But otherwise, leave it free. And after changing, save changes. I'm not doing it. The next one is the server configuration rules. This may be not required, but let's go through. If you know that sometimes iTheme security generates some scripts which has to be added into your server sites, which you have to go manually add in. So if you just look into that, there's nothing which you need to write it down into your server side. So this is okay. Then the next one is the WP-Config.Php Rules. Possibly some script has to be added into WP-config. So if you just click here, it will just show you what. So here it says that it just want this to be added into the WP-config. So you can copy it and go back to your file manager into your backend on your server, and you can add it. But we don't need to. And then the Security Check Pro, we had actually activated this right from the beginning when we installed the plugin. So guys, I think that's it. We had gone through all the 34 settings of the iTheme Security's free version. I am sure that it will improve your site security, and you will have real insight how you can get benefit of this free version of this plugin. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you with the next video next week. You take care.